Welcome. Today, we're doing something a bit different. We're stepping away from the usual kind of source material because today we're diving into stories of pure, unexplainable terror. We're looking at that blurry line where folklore, urban legends, and these really chilling personal encounters, they all kind of merge together. So today we're exploring 3 accounts, stories of the uncanny, the monstrous. We've got a figure in Mexico that seems almost too real, blurring life and death. Then there's an ancient entity from the Australian outback tied to ritual and silence. And finally, a really unsettling modern encounter, an invisible predator on a ranch that seems to hunt purely by sound.
And I think what makes these accounts so potent, why they stick with us, is how they mess with our assumptions. They fundamentally challenge what we think is possible, what can and cannot exist. They hit us right where our rational understanding breaks down.
That's a great point. They exploit those cracks. Let's start with the first one, the one that feels too real. We're going to Chihuahua, Mexico, to the story of La Pascualita, often called the Corpse Bride. Now, La Pascualita is ostensibly a bridal mannequin. She's been standing in a wedding shop window for, get this, 90 years, since 1930. But when people say mannequin, you think plastic, right? Lifeless. Anyone who sees La Pascualita, though, they're immediately struck by how unnervingly lifelike she is.
Yeah, that's the uncanny valley effect, cranked way up. It's the visual accuracy that's so disturbing.
Exactly. One account just flat out said she's a little too realistic. People get closer and they see things that just shouldn't be on a mannequin, like really natural-looking skin texture, faint expression lines around her eyes and mouth, and her hands. Fingernails that look completely real.
Those tiny, perfect human details. Yeah, that's what triggers the unease. It confuses the brain.
And that visual shock, it feeds right into the story, the legend around her.
Oh, absolutely. It wasn't just some local rumor. The story goes that she appeared right after the original owner's daughter, Pascuala Esparza, died tragically, right on her wedding day.
And people immediately whispered that the mannequin was the daughter. Her embalmed body preserved and put in the window. It sounds crazy, but the details seem to back it up for a lot of folks. There was a former employee who said her hands would literally sweat just changing La Pascualita's dress. She swore she saw incredibly realistic hands, even varicose veins on the mannequin's legs.
And culturally, the idea of a perfectly preserved body, especially a bride, it has deep roots in some folklore traditions, like a sort of macabre saint almost. Now, scientifically, keeping a body looking like that for 90 years in a shop window, it's highly improbable, bordering on impossible. Embalming from the 1920s could preserve, sure, but bodies become emaciated, waxy. But the legend, fueled by how she looks, it's so powerful. Even people who go there as total skeptics often leave, convinced. They feel they've seen an authentic corpse bride.
So the visual is so strong, it just overrides everything else.
Wow. Okay, let's shift gears now. From something terrifying because it looks too human, to something terrifying because it's ancient, unseen, and bound by rules. We're heading to the Australian outback now for an account involving an Aboriginal folklore figure, the Kardashian man. And we should probably note the name can change quite a bit depending on the specific region and dialect. There are many variations.
Yes, and unlike Pascualita, which is all about sight, this one is about sound, silence, and crucially, human action. Or inaction, maybe. Breaking a rule. It fits that pattern of like a territorial guardian entity found in many indigenous lores. Right. And that structure, the broken rule, that's what makes this account so chilling. It comes from a guy looking back when he was 11. He and his friends skipped school holidays, went fishing about 15 clicks out of town. They ended up near an old abandoned encampment on land that was known to be sacred. And as they got near the edge, there was this statue. His friend stopped dead, said a few words. He explained his dad told him he had to do it every time to stop bad spirits from seeing them. But the narrator, I was 11, thought it was silly, so he just walked past. Skipped the ritual.
And that's the trigger. The taboo is broken right there.
Exactly. So they fish, have a good time, lose track of the time. Then the sun starts to set. And the friend suddenly gets really, really agitated, like panicked. He starts saying, "We gotta go now. It's really unsafe here after dark." And right then, just as the tension spikes, SPLH, a huge, loud splash in the water just behind them, followed by nothing. Absolute dead silence. So they start walking back fast, but it's pitch black. They forgot a flashlight, a torch. Then they hear it. Heavy footsteps. Off to their left in the bush, maybe 15 meters away, keeping pace with them.
Yeah.
And then the whole bush just goes silent. A wind drops. Every insect, every bird just stops. Complete silence.
That sudden unnatural silence is a recurring motif in these kinds of encounters globally. It often suggests the entity is asserting control, focusing, and the fact it was between them and the road, that implies intelligence, strategy.
Yeah, it was cutting off their escape. They kept moving, trying to be quiet, but the footsteps just stayed with them. The narrator said he thought he heard this low mumbling sound too, but his friend was just whispering frantically, "Shut up, don't look back." Then, CRAsh, something big moved noisily right near them. They dove into the shrubs, terrified, and lying there, they saw it, a silhouette against the faint light on the path. He described it as godly tall. Humanoid, but really thin, sickly thin, and he could see the outline of feathers. It was moving weirdly, snapping its head around, going from tree to tree, actively looking for them.
For the description, tall, thin, feathers, aligns with some variations of the Kardashian man lore.
Yeah. Then something must have distracted it. Maybe a kangaroo further off. It paused and let out this scream. He described it as unearthly, said it actually hurt their ears. Then it just shot off down the path, incredibly fast, faster than anything he'd ever seen move. When it was gone, the narrator finally looked over at his friend. His friend had his face buried in his hands the entire time, just whispering, "We're not allowed to look." His face was stained with tears. He knew the rule. And the postscript is just as chilling. The friend has absolutely refused to ever talk about it since that day. He warned the narrator that even speaking about it could make it come back. The silence is mandatory.
It's a perfect example of how folklore enforces itself. Break the rule, entering sacred land after dark. Skipping the ritual, looking at the entity, invites disaster. And the taboo against speaking ensures the story persists through fear, not open discussion. The entity is protected by the silence it demands.
Okay, so from ancient rules to something else. Our third account feels very modern, very different. This is the terror of an intelligent, invisible predator. The story of the invisible tracker. This happened about 12 years ago. A man was fishing on his girlfriend's property, a long ranch acreage, down by a pond near the property line. And suddenly, out of nowhere, he gets hit by this wave of just crippling fear. He described it as an instant, "oh fuck," feeling, pure adrenaline dump, like right before a car crash, primal panic. So he quickly reels in his fishing line, and then he hears it. Leaves rustling down the bank to his right. He looks. He can clearly see leaves being kicked up, disturbed by something moving down the slope. But there's nothing there. Absolutely nothing visible. He kind of dismissed it for a second, thought maybe a small animal, sighed in relief.
And that's the key moment, isn't it? The sigh. Because the instant he sighed, the rustling froze. It stopped moving.
Exactly. It reacted to his emotional state. It knew he'd relax.
That suggests it's not just some random phenomenon. It's observing, listening, intelligent.
Totally. So now he's freaked out again. He grabs his shotgun, which was leaning nearby, and he chambers a shell, that very distinct click-clack sound. The second that sound registers, the unseen thing immediately reacts, takes a clear, audible step behind the nearest tree.
It recognized the sound of the weapon being prepared. It understood the threat.
Yeah, and that's when he saw something. Not clearly. He described it like, an old VHS tape when you record over something else, like a faint, shimmering outline against the tree. The shape of a person, leaned over and staring right at him.
Wow, like a Predator-style camouflage effect almost, but fainter, just an outline.
Exactly, just this disturbing, barely there human shape watching him. So pure panic now. He just yells out, "I can see you!" And the thing visibly startles, jumps like he surprised it, and moves fully behind the tree. He realizes this thing is real, it's intelligent, it's reacting to him. So he fires a round from the shotgun towards the base of the tree, and then he just runs, bolts the entire 3/4 of a mile back towards the main house. And as he's running, he can hear it chasing him. The footsteps were incredibly heavy. He said it sounded exactly like a football player running in full pads on grass, that sort of heavy, rhythmic, almost plastic on plastic sound.
So audibly present, physically heavy, but visually gone again.
Completely invisible now, yeah. He actually fired a second shot back blindly while running, but it didn't seem to have any effect. He couldn't see anything to aim at.
The combination of hearing that heavy pursuit but seeing nothing, that's deeply unsettling. It breaks basic physical rules.
And here's the confirmation. His girlfriend and her brother were outside near the house. They saw him sprinting towards them. They started screaming and ran inside because they saw, quote, dirt and leaves being absolutely torn up in the air right behind him as he ran. But they couldn't see what was causing it. Just the environmental disturbance, the violence of the chase.
So they witnessed the effect, but not the cause. Independent corroboration of the invisibility.
Right. And the final, really chilling detail came the next morning. He went back cautiously to look for tracks, for any evidence. All they found were a few indentations in the ground by that tree where he first saw the outline. But here's the kicker. Those few tracks had been deliberately scuffed and covered in leaves and pine needles.
Covered up.
Deliberately obscured.
That implies foresight. understanding evidence. It knew he might come back looking. That's not just animal instinct. That's calculation.
It's terrifyingly intelligent, actively erasing its own presence.
Yeah, that final detail elevates it from just a strange encounter to something profoundly disturbing. It suggests a consciousness that understands human investigation.
So looking at these three stories together, La Pascualita, the Cardaci man, the invisible tracker, they represent such different kinds of horror, don't they?
Completely different operating systems, you could say. La Pascualita terrifies through being too visible, too real, defying decay. The horror is proximity and visual wrongness. The Cardaci man is mythological terror. Ancient, rule-based. Break the taboo, the ritual, the silence, the gaze, and you invoke its wrath. The horror is transgression. And the tracker, that's modern horror, almost technological in its invisibility. Intelligent, reactive, predatory, and crucially, it covers its tracks. The horror is being hunted by something you can't see but knows exactly where you are and understands how you think.
But the common thread running through all of them
is intelligence or life operating outside the rules we understand, whether it's defying death, enforcing ancient law, or using invisibility and sound to hunt. It's the violation of expected physical reality. It's the fact that you can't fully explain or rationalize them, that inability to categorize, to control. That's the core of the fear, I think.
Absolutely. It leaves you powerless. So it makes you wonder, doesn't it? What's ultimately more terrifying? The unknown that looks almost human standing right there beside you, or the unknown that you can't see at all, but you know it's there, listening, hunting by sound, and smart enough to hide its own existence. Something to think about. Thank you for joining us for this narrative deep dive. If you enjoy exploring these kinds of chilling accounts, stories of horror and suspense, please do make sure to like, share, and subscribe to our channel, Horror Docs. We'll have more for you soon. Until next time, stay spooky.